A quick content warning for our listeners. For the first 10 minutes we talk about the murder of a child, and therefore it won't be suitable for all listeners. If you want to go straight to the regular podcast, skip to the 10-minute mark and you'll miss this section out. Thanks.
Hello and welcome to the MHG podcast. Once again, let's get this out of the way. I'm Bradley and I'm joined by Stu, and I'll ask Stu how he is in a minute. Unfortunately, events in the UK this past week have broken me somewhat, affected me really badly. That is the awful murder of 9-year-old Olivia Pratt-Korbell in Dovecot in Liverpool, and just truly horrendous. 9-year-old girl murdered in her own home after, I don't even want to call this person a man or a human, but someone was chased through the streets with a gun by another person. Poor girl's mum opened the door to see what the commotion was before both men barged into the property and opened fire, leaving the mum with a gunshot wound to her wrist and unfortunately killing 9-year-old Olivia. Both the gunmen alive, one of them alive and well and on the run, and the other took a couple of shots, and his friends took him to hospital while leaving this poor girl dying in her home. It's horrible. It really is horrible. And the reason this one's affected me is back when the Rhys Jones murder happened. Rhys was 11, 12, I can't remember exactly, when he was accidentally shot as he walked across a pub car park. But I was able to mentally go, well, that can't happen to my child at this time. My son wasn't even a year old. I can protect my child at this time. But a lot of the others, when you hear stuff, you can do some mental gymnastics and you can find a way of getting away. This is how I can stop this happening to my child. I can protect my child. I'm not naive enough to think that nothing can ever happen to my children, but I can protect my child. This one, however, whether it's because they're similar age to my daughter, okay, yeah, there's like 4 years difference, but similar age to my daughter, I don't know. But this child was completely innocent. The family weren't even connected with these people in any way, shape or form, by the way. Completely innocent, in her own home, the one place she should feel safe, hiding behind her mother where she should be safe, and nothing could be done. I will reiterate the what's going around Liverpool at the moment, which is, if you know anything, if you know who this person is, there is no grassing culture. Get over yourselves. This person has to be brought to justice, because it's utterly disgusting. And how I know it will happen is what I know of the city of Liverpool. They come together. Reminded only yesterday of, and it's only small, but inside Anfield, a week or so after the Rhys Jones murder, playing Z cars inside Anfield because that city came together for young Rhys Jones. There's been other murders. The city's been crapped on from a great height before they come together. They came together after Hillsborough. They are, a united city, and they will find this killer, but don't let this drag on. It's affected me. I'm not going to lie. It really has affected me. And all I can say is hold your children tight. Hug them. Let them know you love them. Let them know you can keep them as safe as you possibly can. Because there's children who are terrified at the moment. They can't even say, oh, I'll stay at home, because they're terrified. And that should not be the case for children. Forget the way this country's in crap. Usually I'll make some jokes about the politics. We'll be a bit light-hearted about it. Even in the dire situation that this country's in. But there's just nothing. I've cried this week on countless occasions because This should not happen. This should not happen. We've banned guns in this country, so thankfully these things, when they do happen, still are shocking. They are still shocking. Before I sort of move to what's next, Stu, is there anything you want to say? Because I know I've just rambled there right at the start. Is there anything you want to say or add?
Only that it's very important that people recognise when they need to detach from the news cycle, because something like this is very moving and it can spark a lot of feelings, and obviously has. But it's not ignorant or selfish to recognise when you can't take any more of the news, and it's very important that, you know, that we have that knowledge and that balance, that we shouldn't feel guilty if we cut off from the news. It's not us being inconsiderate, it's not us being willfully ignorant. I mean, if we cut off from the news entirely, then yes, but limiting your flow on stuff that you really can have no real bearing on in the world and will only cause you pain, that is not a problem, especially in this day and age, especially with the way that the news works as a more of a commodity than it ever has, rather than just a tool for information. And yeah, that's all I can really add, is that everything that happened is terrible. Everybody has every right to feel awful about it and for it to move them, because it gels and resonates with something in their life. But if you find yourself in a situation where you find anything, you know, climate change news, Brexit news, Tory leadership stuff, anything too much, then don't feel bad about disconnecting yourself from the media for a while. In terms of this one specifically, I hadn't heard of it till you told me, Brad, and yeah, it's absolutely awful. And there are, you know, it makes me think of all the kids and the young people dying in the big cities, and a lot of it unrepresented or deemed not newsworthy because they're not white, and that makes me feel really bad as well. Again, there's very little influence I can have on any of this. I vote left wing. I try and support my community. I try and support the people around me, and I try and remember that that's all that I can really realistically do. And yeah, so I try not to get too overwhelmed by it, but yes, sometimes it gets through and there's nothing you can do about that.
The last thing I just want to add on top of that, and it's I've had a couple of medical appointments over the last week as well, and how I've managed to bite my tongue, I don't know. It doesn't matter where you're from in the country. It really doesn't matter. Don't let this become a north-south divide. Don't let media stories let you believe this is, you know, strictly a Liverpool thing or a northern thing. That's all designed by what people want you to hear. It happens everywhere. Maybe not to this extent. Maybe this is the worst of the worst. But these sort of things are happening everywhere. Gang culture, gun crime, knife crime, the lot. It is happening everywhere. So I should have spoke up. Maybe I should have said something, but I was too upset. But when you hear people say something like, well, of course it's happening there. If you can cope with it, don't let people remain ignorant. I don't care if they're in their 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever. If you feel you can, speak up, show unity, show that what they're told isn't right. There are communities there. These are human beings. We are not political. We are not political pawns, no matter how much they try to make us this. I've had to avoid a lot of commentary-based TV. This last, I mean, my TV's been pretty much off apart from, sport and news updates and things like that. Mainly because I want to wait to hear that this absolute bastard has been caught. But people are using this as political manoeuvring and stuff like, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't let that happen. And I don't want to go into a debate, so I am going to hard cut there. But honestly, if you have kids, or if you know people that have got kids, let them know they're loved. Let them know that being part of their lives, you will do whatever you can to keep them safe.
Yeah.
So, for those of you who did skip that, there is no comical introduction or segue this time. Those you needed to skip the segment before, welcome to the show. Those of you who did listen, thank you for staying with us. So we're going to talk video games because that's what we do. So hopefully, again, we can bring you a bit of joy. So let's move on. Stu, what have you been playing?
Well, the first one I've been playing is one I had an eye on for a few months, and it's kind of I think a polish remaster, remakey kind of. It's one of those you can't really quantify in the modern day and age because everything's just everything seems to be this Ouroboros of consuming itself over and over. But in this particular case, it's called Scarlet Symphony. It has a Japanese prefix that I can't remember. I do apologise, quite ignorant of me. And it's a retooling of a game that's been around for a while, I believe. It's essentially kind of like a Castlevania copy. It's not Metroidvania. It's straightforward Castlevania style copy. It just nicks a few of the kind of aesthetics and enemies and stuff that are in the Metroidvania one specifically as well. I saw it. I'm always doing this. I saw it as on How Long to Beat as being 1 hour, but like I'm up to an hour and I don't feel like I'm anywhere near the end of it because it's really hard. But anyway, God, yeah, there's quite a lot to unpack. So let's start at the beginning. So yeah, graphically,
just before you do,
yeah, go on.
Just before you do, I haven't checked my notes, and this is my Japanese knowledge, Stu. Honestly,
yeah, right.
Koumajou Remilia.
Okay, fair enough.
Which I managed to somehow sound a bit French or Italian rather than Japanese, but
it did.
There you go.
It did sound like you were doing a Romance language rather than the original. But yes, very good.
I would shout a bit like socially, culturally inappropriate and shout it out instead. But no, we'll go. It's Koumajou Remilia.
Cool. So there you have it. So yeah, and so it's basically got very Symphony of the Night style sprites and background style. It's quite simple. It's a really small indie game. The gameplay, as I say, is kind of like it's modelled after a sort of Symphony of the Night in a way, in the way that you move and stuff, but the level layout and the way that you play is all platformy original Castlevania style. So is it any good? Well, no. I'm hard to be harsh. I won't be that harsh. It's not terrible. It's not a game I'd particularly recommend, and the reason is that it makes a lot of mistakes. The biggest one is that the combat stuff isn't very satisfying. I don't feel like there's any real weight or value to your magic or your secondary items. They don't feel like they do enough damage, and they don't scale well, and they don't get up in terms of power and damage quickly. I'm not sure if they do at all. In fact, they probably don't. The regular attack's okay. The jump is too floaty. The setup for how you do slides is all right, but the skip backwards step that you have nicked from Symphony of the Night, rubbish. The platforms are badly laid out. It relies on you jumping a lot of the time using like your secondary jump, which allows you to float across platform gaps, which is really unsatisfying. A double jump would have been much, much better. It tries to tweak the formula. It tries to go, okay, we've got this gumbo of a load of stuff from all of these Castlevania games, all these Metroidvania games, all of these platform games from over time, and I've gumboed it together to make something tasty. And really, it's just made a bit of a messy stew that no one's particularly interested in. And I think I've got a wider point. I think I've mentioned before, I probably have, about how games are reviewed these days. And it's almost as if everything gets a 7, and then there's an argument for them to be raised or lowered by a couple of points. And I think that's terrible. I mean, I don't want to be mean ever. This isn't a judgment because on the developers or their work. It's just that it hasn't quite worked out. That I would give it a 4 because it's just not really good enough. But I don't see that represented elsewhere, and it makes me question myself. And I'm like, well, you know, am I being too harsh? Am I off the ball? Am I out of step? And then I'm like, well, I don't know. I can only speak truth, you know, as I see it. And it just, for me, it just doesn't work.
It's the children that are wrong.
yeah, exactly. The thing is, I would also be like, you see, that's a really good point, because if I was going to review something that I never play but kids do, like Fortnite or Amongst Us or anything that they play and that I don't, I would always be like, right, I've got to think about the mindset of the age of people who play this, you know? I'll be honest about how I feel, but I'll be like, yeah, but I'm an outlier. My opinion doesn't really matter as much. I can't have the same experience with these games that they do. I'm not sitting there playing the game with a bunch of 8-year-olds, and if I were, it would be quite disturbing. So, you know, I can't replicate that experience. But I've played these games all my life, and I know what makes them good and what doesn't. And I think, honestly, if somebody, a kid who'd never played these before, picked it up, you couldn't even sort of go, yeah, well, you're going to think it's crap at first because it's old, but if you keep playing it, you'll really like it. Because I couldn't say that in all honesty. So, yeah, not good.
Yeah, I've been playing it off and on. That whole thing where every now and again I go, let's see what I've got in my emulation station list, and I've been playing a little bit of Symphony of the Night, and even it still holds up. What we now 25 years later?
Yeah,
30 years?
Nearly 25.
Yeah, it still holds up as it is. I mean, I've been playing the original, the original Western ROM of it, and it still holds up. And I know you play a lot of these games as well, so these are right in your wheelhouse. So it's just, I've been looking at the videos as you've been talking, and it looks like it should be, if you like Castlevania, you'll love this. But it's a shame to hear that in your experience, it's not. And the other thing I noticed, on Steam at least, at £27, ooh, that's a risk.
Oh, well, God, that's crazy. Well, I got it for £3.20 odd, I think, off a key site. So I would say...
That's more tangible.
I know, right? I would say, if you're curious about it, I think you can't really go wrong, ever buying a game at around £3. Well, you can.
I paid more for crap coffee that I've thrown away.
Yeah, I am. That's showing some unconscious bias. So it's a lot of money to some people, and that's a very silly thing for me to say. Yes, it is important to be careful about your money and what you spend it on, and therefore,
in the context of video games, £3 is, that's really at the low end.
Yeah. But if you think of take away kind of people's finances out of the equation as well, what's it called? Vampire Survivors. What's it called? Vampire Survivors?
Yes,
yeah.
Vampire Survivors, yes.
Is cheaper than that and gives you hundreds of hours of entertainment. So if you look at it that way, you're like, no, don't go for this one. And I played...
Well, you could complete it in half an hour, can't you? So, I don't know about that.
But yeah, it's... I played that and talked about it on the podcast, that record of Lodos War 1 that was also a Symphony of Night kind of rip-off E-type thing, but it does add different things and it does play really well and it is more linear in a good way. So I would say, definitely look towards that one before you look towards this.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, it's a shame, but hey, they can't all be winners for everyone.
Exactly.
But yeah, I might if it ever pops up for £1 or £2, I might give it a try. But yeah, I'm not paying £27 for it.
God no.
Or the special edition for £42 nearly.
That's insane.
But you get some digital artwork and a digital soundtrack.
Oh my God!
If you like that sort of thing, I've never got those.
No.
Like the soundtracks, yes, I get that because you can just load them up and play them. Digital artwork, I've never quite got. If I want artwork, I want it in a physical book.
Yeah, I would never place any value in it, and it's difficult to place it in the soundtrack as well because the soundtrack is part of the game, and you're playing the game that has the code with the soundtrack in it. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like, Yeah, they should just be unlocking it so that you can you can play those bits of music in the game, because you've already paid for that music.
Definitely. Right. So, moving on, I've got one that I want to talk about, and it's the first one I want to talk about is called "Don't Die, Mr. Robot." I mentioned this briefly last week. This has been out on the Vita, it's on the Switch, PlayStation, Xbox. It's on pretty much everything. And it is just wonderful. It is a wonderful, wonderful game. And I can speak authoritatively about this. I am currently the number 3 ranked player in the world. Just want to point that out.
Nice. What? And that's on Steam Deck, is it?
Well, it's on Steam, yeah, PC.
Yeah.
I've been playing it exclusively on Steam Deck because it's, I first played it on the Vita, and it's a handheld game for me. But hey, if you haven't got Steam Deck, you can still play it anywhere. The premise is simple. If you've ever played the pacifist mode on Geometry Wars 2 Evolved, or I think it's even on Geometry Wars 3, where basically you can't actually shoot the enemies. You have to avoid them and go through like gates and stuff to then actually get the kills on there. It's a similar premise to that in Don't Die, Mr. Robot, where basically you avoid the enemies and then you have to touch the fruit to create explosions which kill the enemies. So if you touch one fruit and it's not near anything and you kill an enemy, you might get 10 points for killing that enemy plus the fruit cost. But if you manage to chain together 2 fruits and kill that same enemy, you get 2 times bonus. 3 times bonus, etc, etc. So the idea is to avoid the enemies as much as you can, let the fruit build up, and then create a chain explosion. But you don't, at the same time, this is where the strategy comes in, and it's a really brilliant game that looks so simple, but is so layered. That, yes, you might just go, there's loads of fruit, let's now go and chain it. But if you go and chain it and there's only 3 or 4 enemies on the screen, your chain's really good, but you're missing out on a lot of points. So you want to kind of also wait, this is where risk reward comes in, you kind of really want to wait for as many enemies to be on the screen as possible, so you might get a 30 times combo with maybe 8, 9, 10 different enemies on, which really boosts your points. So you've got different strategies. One is how long can you go without touching a fruit, and then build it up and get a big combo score, and then hope that's a big, big combo score. Or do you maybe wait till there's 10 fruit on and just go for lots of 10 times combos and see if you can do it that way? Or do you just survive and hope? So there's all these different strategies to it. And you also, what they've added, it's not just avoid the enemies and get the fruit. There's other strategies, such as if you let an enemy graze past you, you get danger bonuses as well. And they can really add up. So you then go, right, so you add an extra couple of 1,000 points to your score total. Just in the background while you're waiting to avoid. So do you want to take that risk? And I screwed up many times going, I'm going to take a risk, try and build up some danger points, I'll just get too close and get beaten. Instant restarts, by the way, which is perfect for a game like this. And it's built down to, you've got arcade mode where you can have power-ups, an arcade pure mode where you don't use power-ups. There's a leisurely chill mode where you just play and play and play. And then you've also got a remix mode, which gives you loads of little scenarios which is designed to teach you the game and get better techniques and stuff like that. All brilliant. You have to buy your power-ups using the coin, because whenever you blow up an enemy, they leave coins, and you collect those coins. And then you can buy different power-ups that you can use in arcade mode. But this is really good, because if you don't buy those power-ups, it just automatically turns arcade mode to pure mode. Brilliant. Really good sort of UI there. User experience there, which is just brilliant. And then, but you can also unlock different skins. There's guest characters in there that they've made up, but you can Mr. Robot starts off as yellow, but you can get him wigs, you can get him different body suits, so it's all different colours and patterns and things like that. And it's just really fun. But it is when it first came out on the Vita a few years back, I want to say 6-7 years ago, probably even longer.
Could be, yeah.
I really adored this game. It's one of those where it just goes, and I do apologise to any of the people who work on this. You don't need much artistic talent to make a good game. You just need to know how to make a good game. Now, because it's not like done up with like amazing spaceships and characters and stuff like that, and the character is just a simple block with eyes, it works. It's got a style that's not offensive. It's a really charming art style to it as well. And you get a black background, and so the fruit sticks out, the enemies stick out, etc., etc. And it does get crazy. You do panic and so on and so forth. But, I love this game so much. And developers, really, really good. The developers behind it, I did mention to them on Twitter. And I will say, I've done lots with Infinite State before. I interviewed them back in my game style days when this first came out, etc., etc. So I do support them, and I've not personally known them, but I've interacted with them enough over the years. But I still will give an honest opinion of their games. I don't like their Family Tree Fruit one. Not a big fan. Anyway. Where was I going with this? Yeah, it's just the simplicity of it, but they are really good. I did mention that the menus are all bright colours with light text. I can't see it. And I have said to them, look, is it possible to have an option where you could just do a dark mode menu? Just that opening menu. So the word play, I can see what that is and then see what everything is easily. And they've said, thank you for the feedback. We'll discuss it and see what we could do, which is all you ask for small teams. So well done them. Brilliant game. Give it a try. And this is definitely one of our coffee cup of coffee games. Even much so that take it to the coffee shop, spend 30 seconds playing it, spend 5 minutes playing it with a cuppa. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I played it back in the day, just checked my notes, and it's 8 years old now, which, yeah, that's venerable. God, yeah, no, it's gone really quick, but it is a superb game. It's so clever and just instant, and yeah, one of those enjoyable things that you can always find pleasure in. Perfect for handheld, pick up and play. Any machine that you can put into rest mode, great on. Yeah, just really good. Only question for me is, right, and this is a brain teaser. What does DX mean? Because I think I remember seeing it first attached to Game Boy games. But it doesn't mean anything in and of itself.
Isn't it like Deluxe, maybe? Like shorthand for Deluxe?
It could be Deluxe, yeah.
Deluxe, rather. Deluxe is...
Yeah, it could be. That, I think you might have put your finger on it there. Nice.
But again, I think they done DX just because I think it's funny.
It is a gaming trope at this stage, yeah.
But I do love the start of every round, and I've never got bored of this in 8 years. And I've been playing this game on various different systems across 8 years. This isn't like, it came out on the Vita, so I played it for a bit. It's out on the Switch now, so I'll play it. I've been playing this game for 8 years. And one thing that's never got old is get the fruit, avoid the enemies, try not to die. Spoilers, you will die. And then every now and again you do die instantly because you get overly confident. And before it goes, see, I told you will die. It's just, I love this game so much. And does it count in the Game of the Year polls this year?
Yeah.
Cool. It's up there. Well, I can't talk about what is going to guarantee be my Game of the Year because I'm embargoed until the 30th of August, and this goes out just before.
Oh man! I don't know. So, you'll have to tell me offline what it is.
You'll find out. It all will become clear. Anyone who knows me knows that my admiration for a certain developer and a certain style of game.
Oh, I've got it. I've got it.
Game coming out. It's going to be my Game of the Year. I don't think I've broken embargo there because I've not mentioned the name of the game. It is going to be my Game of the Year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can't wait to talk about it.
It's that new Ubisoft game that you've been going on about all the time, isn't it?
Yeah, that new Assassin's Creed.
That's the one.
I can't wait to climb towers and sexually abuse people.
I do all that in my regular day, I can't be bothered doing it in a game.
There you go. If they want to quote, "Don't die, Mr. Robot," there's no abuse, there's no towers.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
Yep. No, it is brilliant, and everyone should buy it. I think I'll probably buy it again and play it on my Steam Deck.
Yeah, I would say it's less than a £5, but I think it's cost me over the years a lot more than a £5. I've been given codes in the past. I'm not going to lie, I got a code for this one. But I have purchased it as well, and I've gifted it to people as well.
Nice.
So I'll tell you what, I think I might give a code to a Patreon. I might gift it to one of our patrons, whatever.
Nice.
So if you are a patron, subscriber, supporter, whatever, check your inbox. You might get a Don't Die Mr. Robot DX code.
Sweet. I'm buying my copy right now.
Yes. Oh, so you're not going to get the free one then?
No. No, that'd be wrong.
Brilliant. What's next from you?
Quite a big one, really. Well, a group of bigguns. There you go. There's a title for the show. A group of bigguns. So this week I got a PlayStation 5, and yeah, it's availability was the main reason I hadn't got it before, but also because not a massive requirement, because I've got a gaming PC and it runs everything, and it runs it doesn't run everything because it doesn't have all of the exclusives yet. It's going to get all the exclusives, and I'm a pretty patient gamer, so I'm kind of like, I can wait till next year or whatever. But then the whole PSVR 2 thing has started ramping up, and I'm like, well, I'm in on that so hard. I'm in on it so hard. And
you're into VR like I am.
I know, I really am. If the headsets weren't so expensive and there's so few games on them, I'd have like 5. I've got 2 as it is. But yeah, so it's kind of like I was totally impressed by PSVR, especially as they managed to do so much with so little, really, and they repurposed some tech they already had with the Move ones and all that, and it was a great. It was one of those things that it's like, technologically it wasn't amazing, but it got the experience into the home for people at a reasonable price, and it had the right spirit and the right energy that Sony have not had in this generation. I'm really hoping it brings it back. But anyway, that's kind of the reason that I bought it. I also I wanted to find out what the exclusives were like on the dedicated hardware as well. And it's a good point, to get it. And it's just before they've announced a £30 price rise, so that's good as well. And yeah, my experiences so far. Oh, and also worth saying, I've upgraded my monitor, so I've bought a new monitor, a 4K one, and it is very, very, very special. It's very good. It supports HDR as well. It's got variable refresh rate. It's just ideal for the PS5, and I did a lot of research to do that, and I pulled the trigger, and I'm really glad that I did. And so how much to talk about? Everyone who's interested in one has probably bought one by now, mostly, so I'm not going to go into masses of detail, but yes, it is gigantic. It is absolutely huge. It's just, you think you're ready for it, but you're not. It's the size of an old...
It looks like some kind of like cartoon villains like tower that they live in and do their crime business at the top.
Absolutely, yeah, it is, and it reminds me of when I've been to the Dovey Osprey project. They have some Tesla batteries. They have like solar power and Tesla batteries to try and be as sustainable as they can be. Shame they chose Tesla, but that's secondary point. And it looks like Tesla tech, it looks exactly like that. And anyway, it's massive. It's the size of an old VCR, like one of the 1970s ones. And it's just like, Jesus Christ, that's too big. Apart from that, right, you turn it on and you can log in using the app, which is good because typing with those things is terrible. I plugged in my keyboard to try and do all my typing. Didn't support my keyboard. That's a bit shit. But it does have an app, and you can scan a QR code and you can sign in on your phone, and that's really quick and blah, blah, blah. So that's great. And immediately on your homepage, you've got Astro's Playroom. And Astrobot on the PSVR is in my top 5 of all VR games, not just PSVR, of all VR games. It's right up there, It's absolutely fabulous. It's the best thing that's probably come out of Sony in years, and it's absolutely marvellous. And you've got it there on your dashboard. Didn't cost you any extra. It's a game pack-in that you hardly ever get these days, and you go into it and it's absolutely fantastic. It's a great platformer. It's not very big, but it shows off all the features of the controller, many of which I didn't know existed in the way that they do. One clever thing is you do this bit where you get in like a monkey suit and you have to climb up the wall, and you have to like use the adaptive triggers, which have various pressures on them, and move the pad physically in space to move to the next grip. But you also have a bit where you spin around a pole like a gymnast, and for that you have to spin the pad like in a circle. And those are two distinct movements. It like completely knows the difference between you moving the pad physically kind of left and right and also doing it in a spinning motion. So that's cool. And along with like the speaker in the pad and the adaptive triggers, it's a really good experience, a great way to get you into what it can do. And yeah, Astro's Playroom, absolutely fantastic. No need to sort of even go out and get it, because like anyone who has a PS5 has it. So that's great. Second,
more built-in games. Let's go back to the Master System.
Yes. Well, I was amazed when I got my Master System. I didn't know about that snail game for years. I had no idea it existed, because like you had to, what did you hold start on player 2 or something to get it? But yeah, I had Hang On as the built-in game on my Master System, and
I was an Alex Kidd person.
Nice, yeah. So yeah,
it's why it's still one of my favourite games, even though it's not very good. It's got that nostalgic warmth to it.
Nice, yeah. No, it's great, and packing games are brilliant. It's lovely to be able to just turn the thing on and immediately be able to play something. Which is certainly not the case with any other game. So the other game I got Returnal, which is the one that I've been wanting to play the most. I got that secondhand and off eBay. And yeah, so you put the disc in, it copies the disc to the hard drive. That took about 30 minutes. Then it had to download a 30 gig update, which is basically, I assume, the entire game. So instead of just you're just downloading, the bit that says, okay, you can save this game now. It's downloaded the whole game again. That took me another half an hour or more. Then it had to write the files, which took another 5 minutes. So, just like all modern console experiences, it's a kind of pseudo PC experience. It's not really a...
I wouldn't even say pseudo anymore.
Yeah.
The Steam Deck's an easier experience than that.
Yeah. Well, PCs kind of have the same thing, but you never have to load from DVD or CD or Blu-ray, so it doesn't have that copy step.
I'm going to interrupt you very, very briefly with this one. I watched a video, or listened to a video last night talking about multi-disc games and the history of multi-disc games.
Yeah.
And they were saying about sort of like a lot of the... like your Final Fantasies and stuff like that, and a lot of games. Basically, it doesn't actually matter what disc you've got in if you're playing the game. It's all just to do with FMV and stuff like that. They said because what they did was they wrote the CD as it's going to the RAM. And the RAM stored that temporary information. So you could play, take the discs out, etc., etc., etc. And that got me to thinking, how has technology advanced so fast that somehow you could disc swap an entire game on a PlayStation 1 with a bit of blue tack and, and all that stuff. But now you've got to spend a good hour or so waiting to play a game on a modern console. Why have we not got to a stage where they're going, if it's on a disc, the data's there? Right, unless that isn't even on the data isn't there anymore. It is all just online. Right, why can't it go, right, let's start that first level loading and get that onto the RAM. And then you could play it. This was meant to be a big thing a few years ago, that you could play the first segments while it was installing. But now they've just gone, nah, we won't even bother with that.
There's
weird.
Oh god, there's loads of stuff that doesn't really track and make sense, and most of it is just about it's just about profit. And I think them getting it off the Blu-ray onto your console is so that, well, I think there's loads of things I think they could be doing, but one of them is that they can keep going with the microtransactions if you feel like you've got it on your machine. It's like they can keep you in the ecosystem and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, it should be, and it's not a problem that needs to be solved, because it's been solved years ago, and that's that, you know, your hard drive should be the ancillary device. The primary device should be the disk, and the hard drive should be for your saves and for updates. So if it goes, Returnal's got this update so that it will allow you to save, which it does, which is what the update basically does. You know, that's like a 1 gig update, even less. And no, sadly not. So it's mad. But
here's my solution, right? Very quick. I know we've got a slightly tangent. I'll put one of my games back that I was going to talk about. But here's my solution. We've got game streaming now, yeah? Right? And they're all big into it. Even Sony have gone, oh, yeah, it's a good idea. Right? They've all got into it. The disc is essentially just a key. You know, just to say, yes, you own this game. So you put that in, you start the install. Why don't we now just get that game going? Right, okay, while it's installing, we're just going to do the streamable version for you.
Yeah.
Play the game, stream it. You understand, okay, I'm not getting the full experience, but it's enough for me to get going while it's all doing its bit, and then it kicks in with the loaded version.
Yeah.
You know, even if it has to go, oh, we finished installing, do you want to save your game now so we can then pick it up again? But why don't we now utilise streaming with the installation process? I don't get why we don't do that. Why that's not a thing.
Yeah, it's just all anti-consumer stuff, basically, isn't it? Yeah. Rubbish. Yeah. But yeah, there you go.
Anyway, carry on. Talk about.
I was going to say I'll actually talk about the game now instead of moaning. So the game is fantastic, and it looks great. It really makes the most of your 2K panel as well. Your 4K panel. It's really, really impressive looking. I really like the controls. I really like the fact that the adaptive triggers have a really good use. So you half press it to zoom in, to zoom in your reticle and stuff, and you do a full press to use the secondary fire feature, and that's really good. The whole rumble in it is very atmospheric. The speaker is used really well in the pad for atmosphere as well. It's the frame rate for me has been absolutely perfect, but not only does my monitor have 120 hertz, which is great, but it also, the game also supports variable refresh rate, so if it ever does dip, you never get screen tearing. So it's like FreeSync and G-Sync, so it doesn't do any screen tearing. If the frame rate drops, it just adapts to it. So it looks completely smooth. I don't think I've ever had that. I've never had an experience that good on a console, I don't think. I mean, I have it every day with my gaming PC, obviously, but I've never had that with a console. And it's really good. I think Xbox does the same thing, but I don't have a new Xbox. So yeah, that's really good. It looks great. It's obviously like nothing that my PC couldn't do. People losing their shit over how good some PS5 games look. It's like, they do, but it's kind of like, imagine if you saw this running, in ultra wide with tons more ray tracing put on it at an even higher refresh rate. It can be done. But anyway, no, I'm not moaning about the PS5. It's a really good machine. So yes, it looks fantastic, and it's a really great game, and I'm just getting to know it. But yeah, very, very, very impressed with it so far.
Yeah, it's I'm still intrigued and wouldn't mind one. However, the games I want to play at the moment are either still cross-gen or coming to PC anyway. So Spider-Man, Miles Morales will be coming down the line as well.
Yeah,
fancied playing that. It's there's Returnal has been rumoured, and it's in Steam database apparently, and stuff like that. So that will be coming eventually, and I'm in no rush. So everything I want to play is kind of coming. There's nothing yet that I'm desperate to play. Certainly not to drop £400-500 on.
Yeah,
myself personally.
Totally understand, and as I say, I'm pretty much the same, apart from the thing that tipped me over, which was PSVR 2. PSVR 2 coming out, and it's probably going to be early next year. So it's like, well, why not buy it early next year? It's like, well, then I'd be paying for the PS5 and a PSVR 2 at the same time. So hence buying it to allow the funds to recover a little bit.
You've essentially just put your deposit down.
Yeah,
and got a tower.
Yeah,
that you can live in for a bit.
Warm the room with as well. Yeah,
yeah, No, it's I will get one down the line. I'll probably every now and again there's something comes out and I go, I'll wait for the revision. I'll wait for the slim revision or something like that. So I'll probably do that with PS5 this time round, especially as my daughter now wants a
Series S,
her own Xbox.
Yeah.
So we've got to sort out. Lucas wants to get himself a VR unit, so off air another time I will speak to you about that, about what's what, because he wants to get one of those, because of course he does. But yeah, no, it's the PS5. It's clearly a great system. I think more so the PlayStation, because they was big in the we still believe in generations thing. I think they was seriously affected by the pandemic. Whereas Microsoft was going, look, it's just Xbox. Doesn't matter where you play it, whether it's on a PC, an Xbox Series, an Xbox One, via streaming, via this, via that. It's Xbox. Everything's Xbox. So they was less affected because their games were still coming out wherever. They could still push their services. I think Sony, unfortunately, were hampered. And I think it's going to take them a little while to be able to show what their actual vision was. And maybe that comes with the PSVR 2.
Yeah, I really, really hope so, and I'm kind of banking on it, really. That's kind of what I've invested.
The industry needs Sony. That's much I will say.
Yeah.
The industry needs Sony, because they didn't save the industry, but they took it into the mainstream when it needed it. It's Sony deciding, this isn't working, and one day pulling out, which I don't think will ever happen, would be a disaster, and it would be sad to see.
Yeah, they definitely fill a niche in the ecosystem that isn't catered for otherwise. Definitely, yeah.
Also, I still wanted to bring out the Sony Walkboy or something like that. And go to handheld again, because how they never used the Walkman branding for a handheld console, I never know.
I know, yeah, weird, isn't it?
But yeah, anyway, that's good. That's good. I'm glad you enjoyed what you've got on it so far. So is there anything actually that you want to pick up still that's out, or you're really looking forward to?
Yeah, so I've got two, again, secondhand coming. I've got Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut coming. If you remember, I had that on PS4, but I sold it because I couldn't cope with the 30 FPS. So I've rebought it second-hand, cheapish, so that I can play that. Full proper 60 frames per second. And I've got Demon's Souls coming as well. I'm not a Souls fan, really. It's more just to see what it's like technically, and then probably sell it on. And those are the two I've got in flight. I've got nothing else on the way, but I'll be getting Sackboy at some point as well, which is a sort of... It's not a PS5 exclusive because it did come out on PS4, but it's supposed... Yeah, it's home, really, is the PS5, so give that a try. And also, years ago, I bought The Last Guardian, just simply so I could play it on PS5, because it fixes all the frame rate issues on that as well. So I'll be playing that. So I've got quite a big backlog already sort of stacked up for that.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I want to hear what Last Guardian's like, because even I struggled with that one, and I really wanted to like it because it's part of the obviously the Eco series.
Yes.
And I really, really, really wanted to like it, and I refused to go back to it because I wasn't liking it in its current state.
Yes, and that is exactly what I felt. I was like, there's no way I'm playing this at this frame rate. Well, I hadn't played it, but I was like, if it's supposed to drop lower than 30 frequently, no. Come on now. That's terrible.
If I struggled with it, and you know what I'm like with frame rates, I don't give a flying rat's ass, then you know it's bad.
Yeah, I do.
And I can get away with 15 frames per second because I've only got one arm.
I'm not sure. I don't think it works like that, but I could be wrong. I'm no optometrician.
Oh, dear. Anyway, This will be my last one. I've got another one, but I'll just do a write up for it instead to fill out content on the site. So the other one I've been playing is called We Are OFK, which is, I don't even know how to describe this game, and I don't want to spoil it. It's an episodic. Don't let that put you off. It works. You buy it as just one package, by the way. You just pay for it, and it's just released episodically for what it is. But it's like an episodic story documentary, not visual novel, but sort of visual novel type story-based decisions matter type thing that they don't actually matter. It just tells a really cool story about the formation of a band and where it goes from there. Some people won't play it because it's LGBTQ plus in terms of a lot of the content, which is really good. So there's like it's kind of like romancy in places and stuff like that. I've still not played through all the episodes, but it's just a really great experience of like storytelling and so on, with some gameplay in it. Very visual novelish in terms of its gameplay as well. And again, it's so hard to describe this game without ruining it. So I'm trying to sort of like skirt around everything with it. And I first the first like 20 minutes of the game, I was like, I'm not sure about this. And I was like, I don't even know how I'm going to cover it because I don't even know if I want to play anymore. And then I hit a point about 20 minutes in and I just went, oh, yeah, okay, I'm in. This is really good. And then it's just hooked me in since. I'm about three episodes in at the moment. And there's 2 more to come. I really, really, really like it. And if you're interested in story-rich stuff, episodic or not, if you just really like the idea of story, then this is something you really, really, really should play. It's just one of those odd games that I want everyone to play, but I can't give you a reason for playing it. Visually stunning, story's really good, gameplay is a bit lacking, but it's not about the gameplay. It's interactive enough that you don't, do you know sometimes you play a visual novel, you're just like, this could just have been a film or a comic book or something.
Yeah.
This isn't quite that. There's enough in there that you go, yeah, this works as a game. This is a really good way. It's drawn me in because of the interactive side of it. There's areas where like the characters text each other. And sometimes you see text between like fictional characters and it's like, oh God, you can tell this has been written by a bunch of suits.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, this isn't. This feels like people, quite a natural how they would text each other. So there's like, they text memes to each other and things like that, but in a natural way, not just kind of someone who's in their 60s sitting there going, kids like memeing today, so let's put memes in. There's none of that. The dialogue works. It feels natural. It's really good. It's almost like you are watching an animated miniseries, but playing it at the same time. And they've managed to find themselves a niche in a couple of genres and bring it together so well. What I will say, as with anything that's story-based, the conclusion will decide how good this is. And I haven't got to the conclusion yet. It's really, really good. But I've watched other stuff. I've played other stuff where it's been really engaging, really good, and then they've absolutely butchered the ending. And I don't know what this is going to be like, so I can't even go, they've nailed it, or they've absolutely screwed it, because I don't know. But so far, it's so good. Nice.
Yeah. I mean, it's not something I'd look at, really, but I might watch a video of it. How long do you think how long does each, what did you call them? Not chapter, but episode. How long does each episode take?
That is a question. I don't actually know. Because I lost myself in them, and I do them in segments because of my concentration levels. I'm gonna say hour and a half, maybe.
Okie dokie.
For each segment, maybe a bit less. I don't know.
Right. So that...
I would say it feels maybe added up. You know, I've done it in like a few 20-minute, 30 minutes like sessions myself and got through episodes. I'd say about an hour and a half, maybe.
Right.
Don't hold me to that.
Yeah, no, it's important. These things are interesting because, like, if the whole thing was, I don't know, the length of like To the Moon, which is probably like an hour and a half in total, like for the entire game, I'd say like, oh, well, I'll sit and watch that through. But if it's going to be like 3 hours, I might buy it, because if it's got a good story and a story that I want to read, and experience, I will lay the cash down and the time to be part of it. And that's not because I enjoy those kinds of things as games, because I really don't. But I'm willing to use that medium to get to that story, if you see what I mean. Because there aren't very many queer stories told, and it is frustrating. You know, I mean, whether you're queer yourself or whether you're just queer adjacent or interested in that world, you know, and that, you know, that section of society and their art that they produce. Saying it as they sounds like I'm being really disparaging. I don't mean it like that at all. But no, I mean, you know, I'm really into all of those stories because they're all brand new to me, and it's great. So I'm willing to lay the cash down just so I can be a part of it for a while. There's
a lot of... They explore gender identity and you know, sexuality in a really nuanced way, in a natural way. You know, as much as I will praise, you know, we'll go back to Sony for a second, The Last of Us, like the first one, for having a gay character written as a character that just so happened to be gay. I know they went, oh, look, he's got a gay mag, so look, he was gay. And they tried almost like signpost it, even though they didn't need to. You still get that element of, yeah, we've got a gay character, but we want to make sure you know we've got a gay character, but we don't want to do it in a way that we're shouting out or making them overly camp. A lot of places still can't write queer characters properly. The writers of this have done. Yes, there's a focus on identity and sexuality and stuff like that, but it's done in a natural way because it's the point of the story in so many ways that it doesn't matter that it's front and centre. You know, if this was, I don't know, you know, a story about barbarians having fights and stuff like that, and then the creators went, look, we better put someone gay in here, and they was like, oh look, this particular barbarian's wearing rainbow coloured loincloths or whatever like that, because we're inclusive, then that stands out. It doesn't here. You know, I forgot, not because it's the story I'm there, but I forgot that this was an LGBTQ plus focused game, because it didn't come across as that, despite that being what it was. And again, I'm trying not to ruin anything for anybody, because what you need to go into this knowing little about the story, or know nothing about the story, to get the most from it. It's like someone like telling you like a synopsis of every single Breaking Bad episode before you go in there. It loses something.
Yeah.
And this loses something if you know too much. So if you like interactive stories, play it. I'm not even like, oh, if you're open-minded or anything like that. No, if you like story-based video games, you like stories, buy it, play it. Honestly, it's really, really, really good.
Cool.
But that's it from me.
Cool.
But yeah, that's it from me. Not going to touch on any, unless there's anything you want to touch on beyond that. Unless you've got anything else. Sorry, I do that. Sorry, all the time, Stu. I just assume we're done because I'm done. That's ADHD.
No.
For you. Have you got any other games?
No, that's not it. No, we talked about it before the podcast, so you knew I didn't have a ton. But
yes.
No, I haven't got any. I mean, the thing is, I always have so much going on game-wise. Like, it's not feasible to talk about it all. But I will mention in like a brief 30-second burst that I got a new joystick a little while back. I talked about it on the solo podcast I did a couple of weeks ago. And I don't know if I mentioned this one specifically, but it's absolutely beautiful. I built a shelf. I put a shelf up just so I can put it on the wall in pride of place. It's literally a showpiece for me. I don't know how my wife feels about it, even though she both likes games in general and tolerates my gaming specifically, I'm not sure she'd think it is a particularly beautiful thing, but I think it's a beautiful thing, so it's there. So I do, again, apologise to my wife in absentia. I also wall-mounted my Neo Geo and my Mega Drive 2. I like wall-mounting consoles just because it takes up a lot of space, and if you're clever, you can route the cables pretty well, and yeah, it looks pretty good. It doesn't look amazing.
Oh, I thought you meant literally just for display, not for actually.
No, for use as well. Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. That's how I run them. A lot of them, and they look good. They look, I don't know, 20% better than laying on a table. But the thing is, they're out of the way, which is such a benefit because I've got a comparatively small house, and just having that extra space, so good. And I've run extension leads for the controllers so that I can just plug in. I don't have to keep swapping leads all the time. It's just nice. And yeah, I like them on the walls, and most people probably don't. But it's pretty cool. And I just like creating a nice gaming environment for myself if I can, and that's part of it. So yeah, that's all.
I will, when we finally move, I will be doing a lot more with stuff I own and getting it on walls and having spaces to be able to play stuff and do stuff and whatever.
Yeah.
Lorraine won't mind either because she knows it's such a big part of what I do and who I am, so that's all good.
Indeed.
But yeah. Nice and wholesome way to finish, and I think it was very much needed.
Good. We'll leave it there then.
Yes, I will shut up now.
Cool. So yes, as usual, hope that the stuff that we discussed at the top of the podcast, hopefully it wasn't too disturbing for people. I know it's a difficult subject, especially where kids are related. So yes, but it was an important thing to talk about. We can't avoid the real world, although we can minimise our exposure to some of the worst aspects of it. And as I said at the time earlier in the podcast, it's important to do that as well. But apart from that, if you need any support, please do join our Discord. We're there to chat about anything. We can either chat about stuff that takes your mind off of bad stuff, or we can talk about the bad stuff itself, and hopefully talking is something that you find useful. Other than that, follow us on all the socials, read our content, join our Patreon, and apart from that, stay safe and stay sane.